You woke up at 5 a.m. this morning. You crushed your workout. You answered 47 emails before 9. You back-to-back meetings until 3. You optimized your lunch. You listened to a productivity podcast on the way home. You told yourself you'd be present at dinner. And then you checked your phone under the table. And tonight, lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, you feel behind. That's the part nobody talks about. The guy who's doing everything right, by every metric the internet sold him, and still feels like he's losing. Losing what, exactly? He couldn't tell you. He just knows the feeling. There's a word for that, and a man named Seneca named it 2,000 years ago. Lucius Annaeus Seneca was a Roman statesman, a Stoic philosopher, and one of the wealthiest men in the ancient world. He was also exhausted. He wrote On the Shortness of Life, De Brevitate Vitae, around 49 AD. He wrote it as a letter to a friend named Paulinus, who was running himself into the ground managing Rome's grain supply. Responsible for feeding an empire, buried in logistics, never stopping. Sound familiar? Seneca looked at men like Paulinus, men like you, and he didn't give them a motivational speech. He gave them a mirror. And what he wrote in that letter is so precise, so uncomfortably accurate about the modern man's condition, that it almost doesn't feel like it was written 2,000 years ago. It feels like it was written for this week, for your week. So that's what we're doing today. We're reading his letter back. We're translating it out of ancient Rome and into your kitchen, your office, your 6 a.m. alarm. Because Seneca had a warning, and most men are too busy to hear it. Seneca opens the letter with a line that hits like cold water. He writes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Read that again. He's not saying life is short. He's saying we make it short. There's a difference, a massive one. He says, and I want you to actually sit with this, he says that life well used is long enough. That the problem is not the quantity of our years, it's the quality of our attention. He writes, life is long if you know how to use it. Now here's where he gets surgical. Seneca describes two kinds of men. The first man is the one who lives, who is present, who chooses where his time goes, who can look back at any given day and say, I was there. I was actually there. The second man, and this is the one that should worry you, is the man who is simply existing through a sequence of events he calls a life. Seneca calls him the man who is always occupied. He writes, everyone hustles his life along and is troubled by a longing for the future and weariness of the present. But the man who organizes every day as if it were his last neither longs for nor fears the morrow. The man who organizes every day as if it were his last, not the man who works every day like it's his last. There's a massive difference. Working like it's your last day is hustle culture. Organizing like it's your last day, that's philosophy. That's asking, if today were all I had, would I spend it like this? Most men, if they're honest, already know the answer. Here's the trap Seneca saw so clearly it's almost eerie. He describes a man who is constantly in motion, always planning, always preparing, always building towards something. And Seneca says, this man is not actually living, he's deferring living. He writes, postponement is the greatest waste of life. It steals away each day as it comes, and denies us the present by promising the future. The greatest waste of life, not laziness, not failure, not even vice, postponement. The man who says, I'll slow down when I hit the number. I'll be present when the project ships. I'll take the trip when things calm down. I'll call my dad more when I'm less stressed. Seneca would look at that man with deep, genuine sorrow, not judgment, and say, you are arranging your life as if you have an infinite supply of it. And men, we do this constantly. We spend our 30s trying to buy back our 40s. We spend our 40s planning to finally live in our 50s, and somewhere in there something happens. A health scare, a friend dies too young, a marriage goes quiet, and suddenly the math changes. Suddenly, the question is no longer, how do I get more? It's, where did it go? Seneca watches men their entire lives and writes this indictment. They lose the day in expectation of the night, and the night in fear of the dawn.
Let that land, lost in expectation, paralyzed by what's next, never here.
Now, this is the part where hustle culture gets it dangerously wrong, because hustle culture agrees with Seneca on the surface. Don't waste time. Be productive. Maximize every hour. But Seneca's definition of wasting time and hustle culture's definition are completely opposite. Hustle culture says you're wasting time when you're resting. Seneca says you're wasting time when you're busy, but not deliberately. When you're reacting instead of choosing. When you're grinding towards goals you inherited from someone else's expectations. When you're optimizing a life you never actually designed. He writes, "Busy yourself with countless things, and you will be choked by your own fortune. That's the man who has everything and feels nothing. That's the guy making 6 figures and still feels broke, not financially, but existentially. He's not missing money, he's missing himself." So what does Seneca actually prescribe? Because this isn't nihilism. He's not saying burn your ambition. He's not saying quit your job and stare at a mountain. He's a Stoic. He believed in engagement with the world, in contribution, in building. But he makes one demand, one non-negotiable. Intentionality. He writes, "Retire into yourself as much as you can." Retire into yourself. What does that mean for a modern man? It means know what you actually want, not what you've been told to want, not what looks good on Instagram, not the version of success that your father never had and silently asked you to achieve on his behalf. What do you want? When you strip away the noise, the metrics, the performance, what does a good day actually feel like for you? Seneca says most men never ask this question. They are, and this is his exact phrase, strangers to themselves. Strangers to themselves. And here's the brutal irony he points out. These same men guard their money obsessively. They'd never hand a stranger their wallet. They'd never let someone take their car. They protect their possessions like warriors. But their time, their attention, their years? He writes, "No one is found who is willing to distribute his money. Yet among how many does each one of us distribute his life?" You'd never let someone just take your money, but you'll let your calendar be colonized by other people's priorities. You'll let the algorithm eat 3 hours of your Sunday. You'll give your best mental energy to the job and hand your family whatever's left at the end of the day, which is usually not much. Seneca's prescription is almost shockingly simple. Own your time. Guard it like the finite resource it is, and spend it on what is real, not what is urgent, not what is loud. What is real? What is real is the conversation with your son that you keep rescheduling, the book you've been meaning to write for 8 years, the friendship that dried up because both of you kept saying, "Let's catch up soon," the version of yourself that you put in storage when life got serious. That's where your life actually is, not in the inbox. Seneca ends the letter with what I think is the most devastating line in all of ancient philosophy. He writes, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a great deal of it." Life is long enough, and a sufficiently generous amount has been given to us for the highest achievements if it were all well invested. But when it is wasted in heedless luxury and spent on no good activity, we are forced at last by death's final constraint to realize that it has passed away before we knew it was passing. Before we knew it was passing. That's the warning. Not a deathbed montage, not a dramatic scene, just one day you look up and the kids are grown, and the years you said you'd reclaim never got reclaimed, and the man you were becoming kept getting delayed. Seneca isn't trying to scare you. He's trying to wake you up while there's still time to choose differently. And here's the good news, the real good news. It doesn't require a complete life overhaul. It starts with one question, asked today. Is this how I actually want to spend this? Not rhetorically, actually. Is this meeting worth the hour? Is this argument worth the energy? Is this goal worth the years? And when the answer is yes, commit fully. Be there. And when the answer is no, say no. Protect the time. Give it to something real. That's it. That's the whole philosophy. 2,000 years of it.
Seneca wrote that letter to a friend who was too busy to read it. I wonder sometimes how many men right now, watching this, feel the same way. Too much going on, too much on the plate, too many obligations.
And yet, here you are, which means some part of you already knows something needs to change. Some part of you is tired of being busy and hollow at the same time. So let that part be louder.
Not tomorrow, not after the next quarter, not when things settle down. Now.
Seneca's final words in the letter. Omnia Lucili aliena sunt, tempus tantum nostrum est. Everything, Lucilius, belongs to others. Time alone is ours. Don't waste it.
If this hit different, share it with a man who needs to hear it. Drop the one word in the comments that describes what you've been postponing. And if you're new here, welcome to the Better Man Project. We don't do motivation. We do truth. Subscribe. We'll see you next time.